Hi, Ian. This is Mel. Thank you so much for your outline of the pros and cons of all the healthcare policies. One thing I really like that you did was you emphasized how important Medicare is for the elderly population. I think a lot of people get Medicare and Medicaid confused because they sound so similar, and I even struggle with that too at work. Like, I would always be confused about which one is which. And I'm glad that you mentioned that Medicare is mainly for elderly and then also certain exceptions for people who are younger but very disabled because that makes a difference in the type of care they receive. For example, people who are older, like they have to worry about like having long-term care stays possibly, or things like having to be in a nursing home or have someone visit them at home to check on them if they're a memory care patient, that kind of thing, which really distinguishes it from people who are younger and not disabled because the only time they're in the hospital is acute injuries like a car accident or if they are pregnant and delivering or something like that. So thank you for making that distinction. I think one thing you could have elaborated on in that situation was maybe outlining more like the specific challenges that elderly patients face related to the policy, and also accessibility would have been interesting. So I think you could have talked about how we have an aging population, and as of right now, we have like a large amount of people in that elderly population from the baby boom generation still alive and long since retired and living much longer than any decade prior. You also mentioned that Medicare is expensive, or not expensive, sorry, confusing, but you didn't really elaborate on what was confusing other than the fact that it's divided into four sections. So I think it would have been helpful to outline like what aspects of that are confusing and also tie that into how that makes it less accessible to people. Overall, I think you did a really, really good job communicating the pros and the cons, and I would say that the way you communicated in your video was accessible to people outside of healthcare for understanding the differences. If I could change anything, maybe I would add more visuals just because I think that keeps people more engaged, especially if they don't have any baseline knowledge of health insurance or health insurance policy. But other than that, great job, and thanks for explaining everything.